Okay, I don't know what happened. I'm really sorry about that. We had a whole bunch of people popping on and we lost feed. So let's go ahead and get to the recipe. I don't even know. That's never happened before. I've gone live many times and it's way too far up there for me to even touch. So anyway, welcome back. But the point is it's a lost art. Cooking as a family is really a lost art. And I'm hoping that this might inspire some families to get back into the kitchen again and have dinner. So one of the things that we do, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with the recipe. I did post the recipe in my storyline. If you're following me on Facebook or you're following me on Instagram and or Messenger, I have that recipe in all three areas of the storyline. So you'll have the recipe there. At the end of this, I'll also post the recipe as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the important pieces. And I did a little bit of a jump start just to save a little bit of time. And the first part of the recipe, it calls for 2 slices of some fresh bread. And I went ahead and used my food processor to go ahead and get that prepared. I actually like to do that first because you want your breadcrumbs, and I think I mentioned this last night, you really want to have your breadcrumbs hard, little hard, not really soft, because your cakes, whether they're fish cakes or crab cakes or salmon cakes, you want to make sure that you're not using a lot of bread. And everyone is a little bit different, but most of the time that I find that people, especially when it comes to crab cakes, the way that you're going to have the best crab cake is the more meat that they taste, more of the texture. It's really one of those important pieces when you're making that kind of a cake. So, crab cake, that is. And so less is more in some cases, and in this one, that's one of those. So basically what I do is I get a really beautiful loaf of bread, and I take it out of its package. It's fresh bread, so I take it out of the package the night before I'm actually making the crab cakes, and I just let it sit out in the air so it gets a little bit tougher. And then I've already sliced it, and I've gone ahead and put that in the bowl for what we're going to need for today's recipe. So I'm just going to put this over here. And the next thing I like to do is prepare the parsley. So the recipe calls for regular parsley. You can use a flat leaf parsley if you don't like the regular parsley. And what I like to do, very similar to the other herbs that I work with, nobody really likes a lot of stems. So what I do is I take that bunch of parsley. Don't get rid of the stems, but take that bunch of parsley and I've already washed this, and you're just going to twist it where the heavy part of the meat is on the parsley. And then I save the actual stems and things for other garnishes, like in my water. I mean, they're really, really, really flavorful. And the other thing I told you, one of the tricks is to get the flavor of your parsley or any herb that you're working with, is to use a scissor and snip it really finely into your bread. When you actually snip an herb into whatever you're using it for, there's a release of a fine mist. It's really super fine. But basically what it does is it emulates that flavor right into what you're snipping it into. So I'm going to go ahead and snip a little bit. And again, this recipe, it just is very generic. It's not very specific, like you have to have a certain amount. Now it will tell you, I will say, you're going to have 2 pints of this crab cake mix. And again, if you're not making crab cakes, you can call them salmon mix, but it's the mix, and you want 2 pints. You have to make 2 pints out of it. Well, again, I'm going to tell you that I've made this recipe for at least 15 years, and it's fine. I'll show you how you're going to make the crab cake exactly the moisture that you want it. And it's one of those recipes that you can't go wrong in. It's just beautiful. That's how awesome it is. But again, you want to just snip your parsley really fine into your breadcrumbs. And you can chop if you feel like, you have little time. You can go ahead and even put your parsley in when you're grinding your bread into your food mix master. I mean, that's really just as easy as well. I don't happen to be where I'm worried about time, so I'm not going to worry about it. I want it to be just perfect. And the other thing about this recipe, as I'm doing this recipe is so great that whatever crab cakes you don't eat that evening, or you know, like let's say you're going to assume one crab cake or one, maybe possibly two if you make them small for your guests. So any of those that you've already planned for, before you cook them, you can just put them in the freezer, and once they freeze up, you can put them in a nice freezer parchment bag, and they come out, and you let them thaw a little, and you just broil them, and they're amazing. It's like you just did it fresh. So because I'm making this recipe, I know I'll have quite a few. It's just my husband and I for dinner tonight. Well, possibly. I had invited somebody, and I haven't heard back from her, but we'll see. And I guess if you're in the area and you want to come by, just send me a quick text so I know you're coming, because we'll have enough. But what was great about this recipe, this is the history of this recipe. Years ago, I was a consultant. Susan Tall and I had our own business. It was Competitive Edge Resources. And we were a consulting firm. And one of our clients was the Greenville Country Club. And, well, this was back in the, gosh, Susan, if you're watching, was it the 90s? It was the 90s. Yeah, it had to be. It was in the 90s, late 90s, probably maybe 96. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So Greenville Country Club at the time, and for several years, had been written up in many, many food magazines and different places on the East Coast about having the #1 crab cake recipe ever. Well, we were consultants in process reengineering, and so one of the things we were doing was we were working in the kitchen and coming up with, you know, ways to improve the productivity and, you know, the flow of what was going on, the traffic within the kitchen, and which is really kind of fascinating. That was really a fun project to be on. But one of the things that when we were working with some of the chefs, the chef who created this recipe, you know, we had said something, he wanted something of ours to get some help, and we said, well, we'll certainly be able to do that, but in exchange, we would love to have the secret sauce of the crab cake recipe, because we had been trying, we loved crab cakes, and we've been trying to kind of duplicate it. And he said, okay. So he gave us the recipe. But what was fascinating about the recipe was that he left something out, and the pastry chef caught it. And the pastry chef kind of whispered in our ear and said, well, you might want to do this. And I mean, long story short, I actually think how I make the crab cake now is I think I actually make it better, because I'm going to show you some of the things that I've tweaked on it. And actually what I've tweaked on it, I guess I'll need to make a special note for you when I post the recipe below. Because how I've tweaked it, I'll tell you how I did it when I'm making this, but it's not on my recipe. So anyway, this is what it's going to look like when you get your parsley. It's beautiful. Just so smells. If you could have this smell right now, it's just amazing. And again, that snipping, just taking that little extra time to snip, it really makes a big difference. Now, I think this is kind of in your way, and I'm going to take it off and just move it there so it's not in your way so you can see better. That might be better. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do, and it's all part of getting that breadcrumb ready, you're going to take a little grater. I just have one of these. I think I got this at Williams-Sonoma, but I think they even make them nicer now. It could have been a Bed Bath & Beyond too. I've had it for so long I can't even tell you. But what you want to do, this is one of the things that I've tweaked. It's not on the recipe, but it's one of the things that you want to do. Is you take the zest from a lime or lemon, and you're going to zest it into the breadcrumb mixture. And again, lemon zest or lime zest. Anytime you're cooking and you're using a lemon or lime, use the zest from it, because it's one of those secrets. I had a girlfriend who had a incredible sugar cookie recipe when the kids were growing up, and she told me her secret, and her secret was the lemon zest. That just in the sugar cookie, that you put the lemon zest in the sugar cookie, and it's just like, and I wasn't really a big baker. I really am not a big baker. I've become a better baker, but baking wasn't my thing. But since I've kind of realized you don't have to be precise on some of the things that I make. Now, my girlfriend Ivy, she's a really good baker, and she's very precise on everything. So we always had a great combination when we cooked together, because she was precise and I was one that kind of just, did my own thing. But you want to just kind of get the zest right off the rind. And just as an FYI, I have washed all the fruit that we're using already. I've gone ahead and done that just to take some time off, so it's not so much. So isn't that beautiful how that zest just comes right off like that? You can see it. It's so beautiful. And again, I did it right over the breadcrumbs, so all you smell right now is breadcrumbs, the zest of the lemon, and the parsley. It's heaven. This is just heaven. I know we had talked about it last week. If we had smell a TV or smell a Facebook, it would be great. All right, so I'm going to put that aside. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and get these jumbo lump crabs washed and opened. Now, I made a couple of, in my story when I was out shopping yesterday, I put in a couple of videos, and I think I put it in all 3 feeds of my story. And please pay attention to that, because it's really a fun tool. And I gave quite a few tips when I was shopping. But what's really good about crab meat is it comes in many varieties. What I try to do whenever possible is I want to work with the freshest, and I want to work with the one that is the jumbo lump. And the reason being, and I'm going to show you that as soon as I get this top off. I'm pretty tight. All right. The jumbo lump, and I'm going to open it up over here and then I'll bring it back to you to see. It's a really thick piece of crab. Now, inside the jumbo lump crab container, you're going to have some smaller pieces, but it's very, very delicate. So let me show you. So beautiful. So you'll see that there are some small pieces, but there are some really, really big chunky pieces. And those are the big chunky pieces that you really want to be gentle with when you're washing the crab. This is a very delicate process. So what you want to do is you want to run, and it's already been cleaned. It says it on the container, make sure it does say it on the container. And so what I mean by clean, you want to have, you don't want to have the cartilage from the crab. You want to make it cartilage free. And so I'm just gently squeezing the crab, really gently, to make sure as it's getting washed that there aren't any of those cartilage pieces. Because no one likes to bite into a bone fish or a cartilage piece. I mean, it's just not great. But at the same time, you want to try to keep the integrity, those really thick pieces, you want to keep those as best you can, keep those really nice and thick, because when you actually form the crab cake, it makes for that cooking of it just so splendid. And people are like, how did you do this? Whereas many times you'll go to a restaurant and they're not so gentle with their crab, and you'll find that they've almost kind of like, made it really super fine. And that's how it comes in the can. If you ever buy the can, it'll come that way. I'm not a fan of it, and I think you'll have better reviews of this recipe if you do it the way that I've just described. I know one time I had a friend helping me make this recipe, and I didn't give that instruction, and jumbo lump is a little bit more expensive, but again, it's so worth it in the long run. But when she was helping me, by the time she was done helping me, she had made it like just crab out of the can. And I was just like, oh, please don't turned out great. And the best thing is that we were with family and friends. So, you know, it's all good. Okay, those are recycled, so I'm going to go ahead and put those over there. Okay, so now my crab is going to sit here, and I'm just going to let it stay in its strainer, just like that. And now it's time to make the sauce. I mean, it's so simple. This recipe is like really, really simple. Now, I would, if I were making it tonight to prepare right before guests were coming in, what I would do is I would make sure that you just got it to this stage and everything was set and ready to go. You could form them and put them in the freezer, but really it's best if you just form them and get them right into the broiler. So these you can actually fry, but I don't like to fry, and they're even tastier when you broil them. But you need to be able to have them under a nice deep, hot broiler. And they don't cook it doesn't take very long. So the sides that you're going to choose to have, you might want to have those prepared ahead of time so that everything can come off simultaneously, because really, technically, by the time these get formed and get put into the broiler, they're going to take less than 10 minutes at the max. So everything else, if you're really good in the kitchen, you can have everything set up and sequenced just the right way. And so I guess if somebody had asked, they may not have asked, what would you serve with this? So what we typically have is a really couple of vegetables. I'll do a creamed spinach, and I will do asparagus. My husband's not really a fan of creamed spinach, but I am. And so we'll do a little bit of both. So, and then he likes a little hollandaise because he likes to have a little bit of hollandaise extra to put onto his crab cake. Me, not so much. I think that just takes away from the incredible flavor of how everything comes together. Now this is the part that's going to drive you crazy. So I shared with you I'm going to make 2 different sauces. And the sauce that the original recipe comes from, it says to use mayonnaise. And I'm going to try it with Greek yogurt. I've not actually made this with Greek yogurt before, so this is the first time for me as well. And so I'll post, after we taste what they are like with the Greek yogurt, how great they are. I'll let you know. But so I'm going to make a little bit of sauces for both of them. I'm going to start off with the mayonnaise-based one. And so for the mayonnaise base, you want to have 1 pint. But basically, again, it's like 2 cups, right? You want to have, or 1 pint, yeah. You grab my measuring cup. So, I think I can just probably use both of these. I'll just have that one out just in case. So when it says a pint, a pint is it's like a cup and a half, right? So again, this is one of those, you don't have to be measuring it to be specific, because once you make the sauce, you're not going to use all of it. So you're going to put a pint of mayonnaise in, but you're not going to use all of it. It's just to get the texture and everything else that's going to come into the fold with it. So again, I'll use a little cup here. And this is, I see the lines. You can not see the lines very well, but I've used this particular measuring cup most of the time when I've made this recipe. So I know that if I get it to the very top, it's a pint. And again, I'm not one of those crazy people who really measures everything. And this isn't one of those recipes that it has to be exact, because I actually do mine spicy, and this recipe doesn't call for it to be spicy. So we'll go ahead and put that right in. And I guess I could be putting the other sauce together at the same time, since we'll be using the same items. Okay, so, and I use the just a plain Greek yogurt. Anything will be fine, but this is what we use in our house all the time. This is in fact what Rio uses when he when I make him his breakfast. And so yeah, I think somebody had posted how they like seeing Shadow have her breakfast. Shadow won't have the yogurt. but Rio loves yogurt and he gets a little cream, which is wonderful. So I think that this is going to work out great because this texture is very similar to the mayonnaise. So I'm going to look forward to seeing how it tastes. Okay, I think I can use just the rest of that. That's perfect. I'm excited. I love creating something new or adding to and tweaking it just to make it my own. And this excites me. I think it's just going to be splendid. And what a great way to save in and making something just extremely healthy. Now the test would be if my husband can tell. And he walked through just now, but I don't think he was paying attention. So shh, we won't tell him. And he's not on Facebook, so he won't see this. So for each one of these, you're going to have 2 eggs. For the one that's over here, I'm going to use 1 egg and 1 egg white, and then I'm going to put 2 eggs in here. So one of the things I was taught early on is to use small ramekins to crack your eggs in, because you don't want to actually get eggshell in what you're already putting things in. So that's what I'm going to do. And because I don't have to separate this one out, I'm just going to make sure that there's no shell that gets in there. Beautiful. That's clean. And that's just going to get dumped right in there. And just so that we're talking about eggs, and I've got eggs in my hand, I really like to try to use farm eggs that they're free-range chickens and that are grain-fed. That's my preference, and no antibiotics. The egg just tastes so much better. But if you've never had an egg from a farm, and I do miss Kentucky, let me just tell you, if anybody's out there from Kentucky, Cheryl, you know, tell Dina, I am missing my eggs like there is no tomorrow. So I'm going to have just the egg white. And we do have some great farmers places here. It's just, there was just something about, I think it's the limestone that the, that the grasslands and where the chickens were. I don't know what it is, but it's just that was those were some of the best eggs out. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the lighter version. Perfect. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do, and it says teaspoons, tablespoons. You're going to make it, and you're going to figure out how you like it. Our family really likes to have our crab cakes to have a little bit of a kick to it. So I'm going to use a little bit more than 2 teaspoons. And again, I can pretty much judge. I know what the color looks like, how that's supposed to look. And those of you who are driving yourself crazy, she doesn't use this measure, she's not using a measuring spoon. I have one out, but I don't need to because I know what it is. Then the other thing we're going to use is we're going to use a Tabasco. And it says to taste. That's the recipe. It does say to taste. So I know exactly what to taste is for us. And you can play around with it. But I am digging this second type of recipe that we're working with. This is so great. Okay, and then you're going to use Worcestershire. It's so simple. This is just an easy recipe. So Worcestershire to taste. And then you want to use some fresh lemon. And so this time I don't want to get these seeds in here, and these are really a lot of seeds on here. I'm going to go ahead and use my little juicer. This is like at this like a dime store years ago. So like a Walgreens dime store. Now I don't know that you call Walgreens a dime store anymore. That's kind of ridiculous, right? But you can just pick one of those up anywhere. And we'll get the juice of that in there. What I love about this, it just catches the seeds. The seeds don't go in. The seeds get caught right here as you're, grinding away. The other side. I'll put my glasses on when I'm working with some kind of citrus. Especially, you don't want to get that in your eye or on your clothes, but using this guy really makes it a whole bunch easier. And again, I would say these two pieces, you can put them in your water, so there's no waste. I love multi-purposing. Okay, so the only other thing, and I didn't put that over here, so let me grab our salt and pepper. And again, this is salt and pepper to taste. And I have in my salt grinder the pink Himalayan salt. I talked about this last week, and I probably will say it every single week. Pink Himalayan salt is the only salt that I will use in my kitchen. It has so many homeopathic qualities as well, and you'll see me post about pink Himalayan salt. So when people are actually doing a cleanse, one of the things we always instruct people from a health coach point of view is to put a couple of crystals under the tongue, and that will help get rid of the headache. So it's wonderful. I actually put this in my water as well, just like this. Here, I'll show you my water over here. Just like that, just a little shake, and then it's just so beautiful. It's just the best salt you could be having in your kitchen. We still have some older salt, but it's not anything that we use for any of our recipes. And then the pepper grinder. I love fresh pepper. You can use regular pepper, but if you can get a grinder, and nowadays the grinders are so easy. They're so easy to get that it's just kind of like, that's one of those no-brainers. So now it's time to mix them up. And all we're gonna do is get that egg really mixed in and get the, I'm thinking you can see it. Let me get it up a little higher. There you go. So you want to kind of get everything all mixed really well together. And you're not going to use all of what's in here. That's the beauty of this recipe. You will use just what you need to make them not too moist. When you get the breadcrumb and the egg, the mix and the, this is actually called the crab cake mix, and the crab. Oh, it smells heavenly. You could just smell this. It's just beautiful. And it has the, really, because of the Old Bays, it has a beautiful pinkish hue to it. It's so pretty. And let's go ahead and do the other one. This is our lighter version. And this is made with, if you're just coming on, I see a couple people have just come on. If you're just making it with the plain Greek yogurt. And this one with the plain Greek yogurt, remember we just used the 1 egg and 1 egg white. And really, I was worried when I was thinking about using this as the texture, I was worried that the texture might not be firm enough as how it holds up against the mayonnaise. But I gotta tell you, this is even firmer than the mayonnaise, which is great. I think it's fabulous. But I do see that you want to make sure, since there is some thickness to it, you're probably going to use a lot less of it. But I'll know when I make the crab cake. I know how wet it is. Okay, so basically we are to the point of all you're going to do is kind of form the crab together, and you're going to pour in, just going to use 1 pint of this mixture. Again, I would do it a little bit at a time in each of your bowls that you're going to be using, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to start with the mayonnaise-based one. And I'm going to make probably equal, and I'm going to gently pull in my crab and put that into my mixing bowl. For those of you who are cooking, I always recommend, and I didn't say this in the beginning, I always recommend that you take your rings off, because your rings have, no matter how great you wash your hands, You don't want to have any particles or anything that get into your rings or anything that could be on your ring to get into the food that you're cooking with. I try to make that a habit. So I'm going to use half of that breadcrumb mixture. And I'm going to mix this all around so you can see a lot of crab is right there. Beautiful. And now I'm going to pour in, and I'm going to just pour in until the very top is covered, and I'm going to mix it and see how well that goes. And this is where you fold. Again, it's to protect the really thick chunks of your crab. You want to keep the integrity of those thick chunks. So if you can just fold in and then add a little bit more until you know the consistency so that you can form a patty. If they get too wet, and I've had this happen myself, as I was playing with the recipe and making it just perfect. If it's too wet when you have them in the broiler, they'll get really crispy on top. And some people actually like that. I've had people over for this recipe. I've made this recipe where I think I made it by like tripled the recipe, and it was a big party. And so some people were like, could you make mine a little burnt, a little crispy? And I guess it's because that might be where they grew up from, because some people actually like their recipe where they're fried. But I don't think that you need the extra, I don't think you need that. And I think it actually makes the crab, the delicate crab, I just think it does something to it. So that's beautiful. Okay. And what I've done, so you'll see that you'll have, the unfortunate thing is you'll have extra left over. And that's because it came out of a restaurant. They'll use it the next day because that will keep for a day. So I've lined my baking sheets with parchment paper. And one of the tricks, I never bought the weights. You can buy these weights to keep your parchment paper down, but you can also use a spoon until you get everything there. And that's all I did is just use a little spoon. Don't need to buy all the gadgets. Some gadgets you really want to have. A good food processor, good mixer, those are important. So what I'm doing is I'm just forming the crab cake just like that. And if you make them this size, a palm size, that's really going to be a good single serving, especially if you have a couple of sides. But if you have men who are coming to dinner, most women will just have one crab cake. But because they are so good and people have never had these before, and when you're making it, people will say, oh my God, I wonder if she has more. I know when we first started, Susan and I started making this recipe, we would make two. And sometimes we'd make them really big. So they're just that good. And I'm really dying to see how these are going to taste tonight with the yogurt. It's going to be yummy. So what I'm going to do is line these up just to show you how I would put them in the oven. I'm going to probably put half and half into the freezer because we don't have that many people. Well, we might just have one other couple coming over for dinner. But this usually makes anywhere between, and I have some little extra left over, so I'm just going to form it on top right there. It usually makes 10 to 12, this recipe that I give you. You're using 2 16 ounces of the jumbo lump crab. And so, you'll judge how many, if you're going to plan on having 2 cakes per person, you'll just have to plan accordingly. Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, how simple is that? That's it. It's just that simple. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. They look beautiful. There you go. So those would go right into a broiler and they would cook for about 10 minutes. You just want to keep an eye on when they're in the broiler. And every broiler is a little different, I found. And again, depending on where you're cooking, you know your altitude. It does make a big difference. And yes, I would take away the spoons before I put them in the broiler. Because that parchment paper is not going to go anywhere. Beautiful. Okay, so we have our last batch. And I guess I can use, yeah, I'll just go ahead and use the same guy here. I always call things guy, and I know people laugh. They've laughed at how I call inanimate objects guys, and I just give everybody a name. All right, so, oh, see that, it's so beautiful. If you could just smell that, it's just so great. Okay. And this is our healthier version. I will report back to everybody and let you know how that turned out. How it tasted. I'm excited to actually taste this tonight. I'm hoping that you're enjoying this recipe. It's a lot less time, so those of you who have joined us, you're probably saying thank you, because that last one, the first one that we did, it was just so darn long. I mean, and I couldn't believe how many people hung on to the end, and then there was somebody who said, hey, I had to go while it was playing. What did you use in the guacamole? Did you use tomatoes in the guacamole? And so I answered so many questions. I was pretty tickled by it all. It was kind of overwhelming. In a good way, though. Oh, it's just gorgeous. I am so excited about having made this as a healthier option. And I'm just hoping that it's going to taste just like the other recipe without all the extra. What I'm thinking as I'm making them up, and I'm looking at the color of them compared to the ones, is that you want to make sure that they're wet enough to hold together, because we only used egg white and one full egg. And then the other thing is that it might not be, well, I'll just let you know. I'm worried that when mayonnaise binds, and I'm not sure how yogurt, how it will bind in the broiler. So we'll let you know. I'll let you know how it turns out. But they're stacked up. They look very similar to the other ones. This is just beautiful. So they were pretty equal. We had 5 on the other tray and 5 on this tray. And I don't want to lose any of these crab pieces. Okay, and that's it, everybody. That's all there is. That's how easy this recipe is. So you're going to hit your broiler and hit your broiler on. I'm not going to actually put these into the broiler just yet, but I wanted to make sure you had them. Whoops. Here we go. So I want to thank everybody for joining in tonight. If you have suggestions or ideas and or a favorite recipe, those of you who know my cooking, let me know what it is. I have yet to decide what we're gonna be cooking, but I do have a slight bit of an idea. A person on our team is the chef, and he has come up with some of his own spices. And he and I had a conversation this week, and we said, why don't I have some of your spices and do some cooking with them and do a shout out, because he's actually created his own spices. So we're going to be doing that, Dan Oliver. That's going to be just so great. We have one more thing, and that was those of you who made a comment on a post that I had earlier about competition time. You know that in 4 days, our shake sold out, our seasonal shake, peach mango, it sold out. 4 days, it was it. And it's probably the best shake that I ever had that our company has made. It's just unbelievable. So, I have those names in this back box. Those of you who have been entered in the drawing to win. And don't fear, I know I had a couple of people say something to me, I didn't get a chance, and you know how bad I really wanted it. And I said, well, that's okay. The competition ended yesterday, and I reminded everyone. So if you didn't make that one, I think there's a total of 5 more canisters. I have to check. 5 more canisters that are left. I think I'll do one more, challenge like we did here for this one. But then I'm also saving for the next 4 customers that get signed up this week for them to earn one. We have 2 happy people this week already that are getting a canister. So that really just only gives us like 3 or 4 more left to work with. Okay, good luck everybody, whoever the winner is. Okay. All right, let's see who it is. Jonah Potter. Woo, Jonah, you are the winner. You are going to be so excited. And I don't even think that you actually got on to get this, so I'm so excited for you. Jonah, make sure that if you're watching right now, and I'll send you a text if you are not, but if you are watching, send me your address so that I can hop that into the mail this weekend for you. All right, everybody, I really appreciate you joining us, and I'm so excited to be here with you. And tune in next Friday. I'll keep you posted on what we're going to be making. If I get those spices, we're gonna do something fun. I know that'll be the case. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and enjoy your crab cakes.